Alright, hello everyone, welcome to a video guide on the upcoming game mode that involves upgrading your modules, the SSS mode. This is a sort of card battle based game mode that requires no sanity, and you have to do it every 2 weeks. Now I say have to, because if you want to get the parts to upgrade your modules, there's only a certain amount you can get per week. And you cannot farm this infinitely. It's not like red certificates or XP and LMD where you can spend extra sanity to farm it. You get it largely from here, as well as upcoming event stores. So going forward, pretty much every event store will have some of these components. Now the one on the left, that gives you modules level 2, and this one on the right gives you modules level 3. So every 2 weeks it resets, allowing you to earn some more. And every 2 weeks, it'll rotate to a different map. It'll just default to whichever one is the bonus map. And you will get a bonus of rewards for completing it through that one. There's also a first time reward bonus up here on the top right. And so you'll just get a little bit of every module upgrade component. I say a little bit, it's actually a fair amount. So if you clear this out right away, you'll get a decent amount to upgrade your favorite unit modules. There are more towers added every once in a while, and you'll be very grateful for them because there is no order battle for this mode, unlike Annihilation, and you are forced to do this every single time manually, and it's very, very tedious. It's an extremely tedious game mode to play. It's fun to do each tower one time, but having to repeat it is extremely dull. So here I'm going to take you through bi-weekly run of this on my CN account. Coincidentally, this week it's on one of the starting maps that's available. All right, let's get into it. Now, when you first come in, you'll be greeted by these options. And what it does is it dictates what buffs you get by consuming which classes. Now, when you first start out, you've only got the option to go, if I remember correctly, you only have the option to go the A side, which is for Vanguards, 20% extra damage and some SP regen. The Defenders get 40% block, 40% extra defense, and +1 block. The Casters is 20% extra damage and some SP regen. The Supporters instantly gives you 15 drawing power, which I will explain to you in a moment. Guards, 40% extra damage. Snipers, 40 extra attack speed. Healers is 10% less damage in the range of a healer. And then Specialists is it returns the unit they replace back to your hand with half the redeployment time. Once you clear a single tower, you then have the options for the B side, and it basically gives you different options of what to go for with the different upgrades. The only one that you really care about is the caster one, so that you can get plus 40% extra attack power on ranged units, right? Because at the beginning you've got 40% extra attack on for guards, but obviously that only applies to ground units. It does become much easier, I should say, once you get access to the plus 40% extra attack power on casters. It's also useful to have the supporter one, because with the B-side supporter, you get to look at, it just picks up 4 cards and you get to choose one of them to add to your hand. Then once you've made your selections, you go forward, then you get to create your initial team, and you can borrow 1 unit. It will save your team, and it does give you your class breakdown. Now the class breakdown is actually quite important. Class breakdown is just as important as the actual operators that you take, because of the buffs that we just saw on the previous screen. And my general advice is you want to go for a team, and I should mention now, after every stage that you beat, you get to add 2 extra characters to your deck. The characters, think of them as cards. And this is your deck of cards, and after every map that you clear, you get to add 2 extra cards to your deck. Now it is a little bit random. You get given a random selection, you get to pick which one you want from that random selection. So you can't guarantee what you're going to get, which is why you should pick the most important stuff to begin with, and then just get more of what you need of particular classes along the way. So for instance, if you want to go a ground heavy build and you need lots of guards to get that plus 40% guard power, just pick the key guard carries that you're going to use in your opening team, and then just add any guards that come up. The level of the card does not matter for the purposes of the buff. So if you have the option to pick mouse and your mouse is only level 1, she will still add 40% extra attack power when consumed by another unit. My general recommendation is you want to get 1 sweeper, 1 constant damage carry, so someone like Exia, 1 lane holder or tank, 1 healer, and 1 crowd controller. So for the crowd controller, excellent example and an absolute top tier unit for this game mode is the likes of Gnosis. Then for the consistent DPS, Exia is fantastic, Posey is fantastic. You could also do Aya on skill 2. For lane holding, you've got the likes of Saria. Mountain is really good. Mountain is excellent because he's also really good at holding early while you build up your team. Then for the sweepers, you've got your typical, Silver Ash, Surta, Summer Chen. Although with a ranged sweeper, you need to get that B-side caster buff first. Otherwise, you can't maximize their power because that B-side caster buff is giving them plus 40% attack power. And then you want a strong healer, just bring the strongest healer you've got. I like to bring Lumen because he's just set and forget with a very strong healing power. You want at least 1 of each of those, and that's your goal, is to set up 1 of each, and then based on the stage, you tend to set up an extra 1 or 2. Now you can get some pretty crazy power levels with your units because of the buffs that you can give them. However, it's all about getting to that point where you have your unit set up and having the right cards to give the buffs that you need. So I'll take you through this run, and I will commentate on some of the things that I'm doing, and we can see just how it works, and I'll give you some general advice on what to go for. You don't need to have many crazy units for this. You just need a few key units that work really well, which is not difficult to do, and then you'll have no trouble at all. This game mode is really quite easy. It costs no sanity. If you get to stage 8, the final stage, and you fail, you get to retry stage 8 again. You can try as many times as you want. It costs you absolutely nothing except for your time. And you can always borrow 1 unit at the start, a key unit. I strongly recommend you either go, if you don't have a strong sweeper, you either borrow the strong sweeper or you borrow the crowd controller. That will make the biggest difference if you're missing either or. Upcoming units, Moina is a excellent pick for this as well. I won't take him just because he won't be available right away for global players. So let's just take Summer Chen, just so I can show you the power that's available. So in my initial start, my key units, so my lane holder is Mountain, my crowd controller is Gnosis, my consistent DPS is Exia, my healer is Lumen, my sweeper is Chen. Then I've got some backup sweepers, but also because they're guards, they're also going to provide the guard buff as well. Now, if I'm taking Chen over here, I should probably take a few more casters. I need snipers because snipers add attack speed, and that's very important to Gnosis. If you've ever used Gnosis in integrated strategies with the attack speed relics, and you see just how strong he is at controlling the enemy, you can replicate that in this game mode. And it can get pretty insane, and he can lock down any enemy that you want. We don't need this many guards. Irene is an excellent unit in this game mode, especially when you combine her with Vanguards, which is why I've got some Vanguards. Vanguards, their main use is for giving passive SP to your units, which is really good for the likes of Irene, who requires attacks to generate SP. This allows you to passively get her skill ready, and then she can just clear out the board. 2 Vanguards into Irene plus 3 guards will make all the difference. You can only absorb up to 5 buffs for a character. So once you've got 5 buffs in a character, they're considered fully built. So let's bring some more casters, and I can always pick up more casters later on. So let's bring Aya. Now, quick tip. The ranged vanguards, like Beanstalk, Black Knight, and Upcoming Vigil, are one of the best units for this, in terms of giving the buffs. They're one of the best, because you are giving a vanguard buff to ranged units, while still being able to take the plus 40% power buff on the B side of casters later on. So vanguards, if you take a ground vanguard and a ranged vanguard, you are now doubling up. You've got the ability to give that very easy SP charge to ground and ranged units, which is very nice. Also replace Silver Ash. Now, as I said before, level 1 units doesn't matter. So you could take the cheapest, if you want, you could take, you need a bunch of casters, you could take the cheapest casters that you've got just to hand over those buffs. But to begin with, I'm just going to take my strong units, and then I'll fill them in as I clear the stages. The first 5 stages are an absolute cakewalk in this game mode. Absolute cakewalk. The challenge really only begins on the final stage. However, the first time that you're doing it, I would say level 6 is when you might start to struggle, but the only real challenge is level 8, and that also depends on which tower is in the rotation that week, because some runs are much easier than others. All right, so just like in most card games, when you start out, you get to mulligan up to 4 cards. So, for instance, right now my most important thing is getting Gnosis built. I've already got the snipers in hand, because your deck doesn't start out with that many units. You can see I've got all but 4 units. So this is the deck on the right, the discard pile on the left. So I've already got everybody ready to build up Gnosis. I've also got my early lane holder. I've got my Vanguard, my ranged Vanguard. I suppose I'll recycle Chen and Irene and Surta, because I need them to absorb other units. So let's mulligan them away. We're going to put down Mountain just to hold the lane early. Basic Arknights play. Now, this over here. This number over here, this is essentially your card drawing resource. Now this got improved later on. When this first comes out, if I remember correctly, it costs you 15 points per card draw. So when you have these points, you can draw extra cards. Now there is a hand limit, and at a certain point, if you keep getting extra cards, they'll just get destroyed. So you don't want to burn through that right away, unless you have the time to put down units. Now, there is still DP in this game, as you can see over here, and it does cost you DP to put down units. However, you do get a refund when you put another unit over the top. Which is why you still want to bring some Vanguards. It allows you to set up your team much faster. Like, I can very quickly set up everyone if I just have the DP. When your deck runs out, when you draw the last card of your deck, it reshuffles your discard pile. You can use this to your advantage to quickly get back certain units that you want. So before I cycle through and pick up my entire deck, I might want to go, okay, right, I do want to get out some more of the snipers later on. So this first thing we're going to do is we're going to build up Gnosis, and Gnosis wants attack speed. So here are the buffs, right? Exia's got 4 already, 5 is the limit, so once I put Gnosis down, Gnosis is, as a supporter, he allows me to draw a card, so I'm just going to take Chen, doesn't really matter. And so now Gnosis is charged up. You can see he's got 5 buffs. 4 snipers, which is 160 extra attack speed, a little bit of extra attack power, but he also gets 1 SP every 3 seconds. The ideal is this for Gnosis. You might want to do a second Vanguard, but I like to have the extra attack speed, because with this level of attack speed, he can just machine gun and perma-freeze a key target. So when a big enemy comes in, he can perma-freeze them, and then you can always activate this for when you need a bigger hold. One of the reasons why Gnosis is really good for this. Now, the next time when I draw 1 more card, the deck's going to reshuffle. I want to build up Chen, let's say, and which means I need to put down more casters for her. So I'm going to put down 1 caster 1, caster 2. I want Aya to go back into the graveyard so that I can redraw her for another buff. So I'm just going to put down Lumen to throw her away. Then I'll draw. between waves, you do get a bunch of free draw points. You also earn more draw points by killing enemies. You don't passively earn draw power. So I've drawn a bunch more. Now we can put down Aya. And once we get Mestima, that will be fully built for Chen. So we're just going to wait for a little bit of extra card draw. There is a limit to the number of deployment slots that you can have. The deployment slot count does go up for later stages. It's just a little bit restrictive at the start, but as you can see, it's so easy that you don't even really need anything more than Gnosis, or just like single carry. So you see with Irene, she ate Myrtle, and so she's now passively gaining SP for her skill. Alright, so there's Mestima. Put it down, and then we replace with Chen. So Chen has now got 160% extra attack power. I was forced, in order to build her up faster, I had to put down Lumen, which is healer, just reduces damage taken. So she's 1 buff down, but later on, as I add more casters to my deck, it'll be easy to do 5 casters on Chen, which is very powerful. For units like Chen, you want attack power over attack speed, because generally, you just want each shot to do more damage. There's no real need to do the damage any faster. And so at this point, just to show you how much damage you can do, I'll just retreat my other units. I should explain. So up over here is the enemy level. Over time this builds up, and the higher the number, the stronger the enemies get. This is designed so that you can't infinitely stall. You generally want to win as fast as possible. You want to just clear things out as fast as you can. Oh, and before he dies, you can click your discard pile to see what's gone into your discard pile, and you can click your deck to see what's remaining to draw. All the information is public. It's not meant to be some super secret. The rewards that you get increase with each level, so you are encouraged to go further down. Now, after you do the first clear, and you get that first time clear bonus, in weeks where you have to repeat stages that you've already done before, the fastest way to do this, especially if you're having a little bit of difficulty in doing full clear, is you just do 2 6s. You just go down to 6 twice. Because the first 5 stages are an absolute cakewalk, that you'll breeze through it. You might have a tiny bit of challenge on 6, and then you just, if you click up here, the red button in the top right, it finishes the run, gives you your rewards, and you can go again. You can always look at the map before you go in. The maps are very uncomplicated. There's also very little ranged damage in this game. You very, very rarely need to be concerned about ranged units. And then you can also check the enemies. There are bosses, which we'll get to later on. Okay, so here's the card draw. So it presents me 4 cards, and I get to choose 1 to add to the deck. Now, what I'm missing most is extra casters for the likes of Chen. However, having an extra healer is always nice, because sometimes you need to put down a healer early, and then later on you want to replace them as you do a fully buffed healer. For healers, generally attack power and attack speed is very nice. I like a combination of the two. Right, so we've got Steward. Even though Gavial is a much stronger unit, we don't actually need a frontliner like Gavial at the moment. So I'm just going to go for Steward, because that's an extra caster, which is 40% attack power to my range units. I don't necessarily have to do Chen. I can also do Aya as well. Okay, so let's get rid of the 2 healers because we don't need them right away. We have got 2 of the snipers for Gnosis. We've got 1, 2 casters for Chen. Let's also get rid of these other two because we don't need them to begin with. All right, we've got perfect. Our early mountain, we're going to put him down so he can just hold the lane while the enemies are level 1. No healing required. Very easy. So that's where we're going to put Gnosis. Another quick tip. Schwartz, for instance, is not as good as Exia for this. Now, even though I can afford to put down Schwartz right now, what I'd rather do is I'd rather just build up a little bit of DP first and then do the full stack of Cruz, Schwartz, Exia in one go, get another sniper, and then put Gnosis over the top of that. Because by building up some of that DP, I can get my units built up faster. Oh, there's Myrtle, perfect, so this will make it go even faster, which is good. Basically, we just need to be set up before the big guy moves. At least one power unit ready to go. So, we've got a lot of DP. Let's draw. There we go. Our 4th sniper. Fully built up Gnosis. Now, let's grab Beanstalk. Because if I put down Beanstalk once more, and then I put down over there, put down over there. Another thing you can do is you can put down a unit for the first time. Whoops, I didn't mean to activate Mountain. I meant Myrtle. Put down a unit once, activate their skill, and then just replace them right away. So here I could just do this, clear it out, and then just put her down. Right, we need one more caster for maximum power on Chen. Now, I could also put down some more attack speed, just if you want to clear things out a little bit faster. We still only have a deployment limit of 4, so what's likely to happen is that we end up retreating Myrtle just to put down a healer, if we're worried about anybody dying. We can also activate Gnosis like this. Him being fed Beanstalk means he can activate his skill much more frequently, and so he just locks down everything while locking down the key front line enemy just with his auto attacks. We are going to end up replacing Aya, so may as well activate now. Also remember, the faster you kill the enemies, the lower level they are, which means the final wave will be weaker. Alright, we drew another sniper. But we got our free draw. There we go. There's Steward. And then now we've got full powered Chen. Let's activate Myrtle just to get some of that DP before we retreat her. I just want to build up a healer. So for a healer, we're going to do high attack speed. Let's do... There we go. So now Lumen has got very high attack speed with a bit of a power boost, which means nothing is likely to die. We'll activate Surta just to kill this a bit faster. And then we can always replace Irene. Now, this is so easy right now that I'm sort of overdoing it. Quite frankly, Gnosis by himself could probably solo this once he's fully built. Now you'll notice that Lumen is actually doing quite a good job of keeping Surta alive just by himself. A good strategy for this is you just bring Surta with guards to buffer up to full power and a bunch of healers. And you can keep Surta alive infinitely. If I had 3 fully built healers there, they'd probably keep Surta alive permanently with enough power and attack speed. Alright, next stage. So over here, we could go for Vigil if we need more of that range DP. Supporters are good to add to your deck later on, because one of the things that gets more difficult as you go later on is your deck becomes bigger and bigger. And if you're familiar with card games, ideally you want thin decks, because a thin deck means you're more likely to draw the key cards that you need. So eventually your deck actually becomes bloated enough that it becomes worse adding more cards. And in those cases, if you're not sure what to take, like if you don't want anything else, just take the supporters because they allow you to get through your deck faster. So an extra supporter in the deck doesn't really make a difference because a supporter will help you thin out your deck. So I'm actually going to do that. I don't need any more snipers because I've already got 5. W is good, but I don't need any more of that. Don't need another healer. Not yet, at least. The extra range Vanguard is nice, but I don't want to have to take that, especially so early. We don't have any specialists yet, so I could take this, but we also do have Ifrit. So I'll take Ifrit first. We'll come back to a specialist later. And also, I do like to get a defender or two around the mid game, because you want to have just a bit of extra block count and defense on your primary lane holder. Okay, let's get rid of Chen because we're going to have to put her on top. We don't need the 2 healers right away because we've got Mountain. So we're going to cycle through all of that. Let's put down Mountain. Put down Beanstalk. I'm going to put down Myrtle just to get that DP ASAP. Let's draw our cards, see what we've got available. Right. Now, from experience, I know this map, the pressure builds up fairly quickly, so we do want to get Gnosis, or just some power unit, down as fast as possible. So let's start building it up. Alright, there's Gnosis. Now, sometimes you have no choice but to go, okay, I've got these 3 units right here. I might get a little overwhelmed. I can't do the full buff that I wanted. So what I could do here, for instance, so I put down my supporter to draw the sniper that I need. I'm going to put her down. So she's at 4 buffs. There we go. And that's a full Gnosis. But sometimes you just have to make do with whatever buff you can. Like if I couldn't get my last sniper, I'll just throw in Steward for a bit of extra attack power, put down Gnosis, and then be done. With ground units, you do have the advantage, and also ranged units depending on the specialist. If you use a specialist, you can redraw them, put down the buff. So say you put down Gnosis at only 4 buffs, you can then redraw him, like pick him back up again, put down the final buff, and then redeploy him on top. If you have the window to do that. And so now that Gnosis is online, nothing will get through. Just to make things a little bit faster, let's start building up our ranged carry. Generally, great abilities for this game mode are ones that just either really benefit from attack speed, like Gnosis, or really benefit from just a huge amount of power, like Summer Chen, or ammo skills in general are very strong if you just go full plus 200% attack power. I think at this point, what I'll do is I'm likely going to cut ahead to the boss stage. So let's just do that, and I'll quickly, just to save some time. Quickly paused over here, because I want to show you what happens when a unit dies. So when a unit dies in this game mode, they don't actually die. They just go into this down state. And also, over here, you've got 3 lives. You don't need to do a perfect clear. It doesn't make a difference. You just have to be able to clear. So you can actually let a couple of things leak. So when a unit dies, you've got some time to deploy a unit on top. So if you want to save the buffs, just deploy someone on top and they'll get the buff. All right, we come back. This is one of the bosses. Bosses are very simple, very easy, except for maybe a couple of the final bosses. The basics ones generally just have this one gimmick, like maybe they stun on attack or something like that. They're very, very basic, very simple. If you want the easy way of beating them, generally, as you can see right here, Gnosis just auto attacks alone, pretty much take care of the boss, add in a little bit of extra damage, and it's no worries. The likes of Chen will probably kill him on the way in. There's really not much to them. They're very, very simple. Alright, next mechanic. When a boss dies, you get these special utility items. So different utility items give different effects. Either it helps you draw cards from the deck, you can get extra draw points, you can get cards back from the graveyard, that sort of thing. They're fairly self-explanatory. My general recommendation is you go for the ones that allow you to just outright draw cards from your deck or get cards back from your graveyard. The ones that get back from the graveyard, which is this one over here with the rook with the recycle arrow, which is the same icon as the graveyard. What you can do is, say you want to build up Gnosis very fast, but you don't have enough snipers in hand. You can say you put down 2 snipers, then, so you've got 3 snipers in hand, you put down 3 snipers, and then you can recycle back the other 2, put them down, and then put Gnosis. And you'll know they'll be in the graveyard because you've just put them there. So that's a very strong one. I'd say the recycling one is probably the strongest. Another useful one, which was not given as an option, is the one that looks like a music box. And what it does is it just gives 2 buffs of the unit's class to itself. So say if I used it on Aya right now, it'd give +2 caster buff to Aya, which in this case would be an extra 80% attack power. That's how fast you can kill the boss. Ah, here we go. Here is the music box looking item, which I get to use on the next level. Now you can get by with letting the boss leak, but you won't get the buff. The utility item. You definitely want to get the utility items. Alright, from here, I'm going to probably skip ahead to the final stage. Just to show you what that's like when the game is a little bit challenging. And it just so happens that the boss for this tower is the most difficult one. Okay, we're up to the final stage of the tower. This boss is this rolling boulder. He's definitely the hardest enemy in this entire game mode. Still not that difficult. You just need to be aware of his abilities. So he will petrify the unit with the highest attack power. And when the unit is petrified, they can't do anything, but allies can attack the encasement of rock to break out the ally. And he'll also petrify a card in your hand at random. And he does considerable damage in melee, and he's got a damaging aura as he rolls around. My best tips to deal with this boss is get a couple of carries set up as fast as possible and also have some decent lane holding as well. You ideally want to lane hold a little bit further forward and you can damage the boss as he rolls around because he rolls around in circles for a bit. However, enemies do come from behind. So if you ideally have a unit like Irene or Gnosis or something like that that can activate and take care of any enemies that try to go behind without having to actually set up behind, that does help. And you also definitely at this point want to have a healer set up to keep your units alive. Now the one disadvantage about this level is you've only got 3 range deployment slots, so use them carefully, use them wisely. Generally range carry, range CC, and a healer. Those are the 3 that you want to prioritize. So with this boss, he'll go around a few times. What you really need to do is damage him as much as you can while he's doing the circles, because once he starts heading for the exit, he zigzags back and forth, and he hits very, very hard in close range. So just do everything you can to do as much damage as possible when he swings around. So units like Chen would be very good for that, and obviously just activate your sweepers. And by the way, there you saw the effect of when a unit's petrified, they just deploy petrified. So it's nothing too crazy. As long as there's someone in range to break them out, it does also slowly take damage over time, either way. Now, as you can see, I've killed everything else, and it's quite generous. It really gives you another tour, so got a decent amount of time. He also stops there for a bit. Generally, if he's about half health for the final bit, you've got no worries at all. Even 75%, it's pretty doable. If you've got a very overpowered team, then he'll die before you even get to that last bit. Alright, and then once you're done, it will automatically clear it out for you. What's very annoying is that a full run does not give you all the resources, like all the rewards for that one reset. You have to do another partial run. It's one of the things that's very tedious about this, is the fact that you have to keep manually playing it every time. It's very, very tedious having to do this over and over. The fact there is no skip function and that you have to do it so many times just gets very tedious. It's fun to play at first, and it's fun to see units be overpowered, though they don't get as crazy overpowered as they can be in integrated strategies. It just gets tedious very, very quickly. There's a lot of potential in this mode, but at the moment it is the most basic, most obvious version that you could go for with these ideas and these mechanics. Hopefully in future they make it a bit more complicated. Well, complicated is not what they need. What they need to do is make it not take so much time and it be more fun. And since we've already got integrated strategies, we don't need another game mode that you play a lot of endlessly. Make it just fun every 2 weeks, not take that much time. If we ever have to do a repeat, just allow me to do a skip. I don't want to have to replay anything. But the mode is essential for the module upgrade system, so I do highly recommend that you do it. It's not very difficult. Once you do one completed run, you'll find it's very easy, especially if you beat this boss. Everything else is 1,000 times easier compared to this guy. It's not difficult at all. If you did find this video useful, do hit that like button and subscribe if you're new here. You can also join me on Twitch at twitch.tv/drvolk, where I stream several times a week. Just recently, I finished a challenge beating Stiltifera Navis with a brand new account, which was a lot of fun, and we had a great time over those 3 weeks. All right, thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.